Oh, I found some very interesting relics today. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Ah, there it is. Yes, very interesting relics. I think I might have found a Roman key, but I'm going to have to let you experts have a good look at it because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a Roman key. I found a little, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. 3 items that are like really interesting relics. So yeah, I want you to have a look. I've also been doing some research on how to there are certain plants. I'm a gardener, for example, and I have discovered that there is copper under the ground. Like if you find a big chunk of copper, in fact I found a piece today, a big chunk of copper, what you do is you get the black soil that builds up around it. Well, in small quantities, copper is actually quite good for you, good for the plants and good for people, you know, vitamins, that kind of thing. But when it gets to massive quantities, like the dark soil you get around a copper object, the soil goes black, and that can be toxic to plants. Some plants are they like a lot of copper, and other plants it'll kill them basically. So some plants are tolerant, that's the word I was looking for, tolerant, and some plants are intolerant. So I discovered a plant today that I think is tolerant of high amounts of copper in the ground, and I think it's clover. I think clover is a plant that is tolerant of a lot of copper in the ground, because in the winter you get this thing called the capillary action, and that's the water table going up and down with the different seasons of the year. So in the winter time the capillary action, the water table comes up, so all that copper that's sort of surrounding that thing will get sort of like dispersed into the soil, and it will come up to the roots of the plants, and it will slowly start to poison them. Obviously it'd have to be a huge amount of copper for it to do any serious damage, but there might be a way of using this. There's this thing called NDVI. NDVI. It's a multi-spectral camera. Can look at the soil, look at fields, and it'll tell you where plants are happy and plants are unhappy. So if a plant is being poisoned, it'll be unhappy, and it can show, like the photosynthesis in the leaves of the plant, it can show whether a plant is unhappy or happy. If it's happy, it's a nice dark green colour. If it's unhappy, it's yellow. So you can get these satellite pictures that can zoom in on the ground and tell you whether plants are happy or unhappy. So there might be a possible way, if you think you've got a hoard in a field, of using this NDVI. NDVI is called. I can't remember what the abbreviation is. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen here. But and it's a way of searching for happy and sad plants. They use it all the time in agriculture. Anyway, so I might have discovered a way of doing that. So I'm going to show you some film now of me finding these plants and what I've discovered in the field today. I've been doing some research lately, and I have discovered that copper under the ground, you know when you find a chunk of copper under the ground, it's got dark soil around it? Well, that can be highly poisonous to plants. So it's not showing up too much at the moment, but it can discolour the leaves because the huge amount of copper, especially in the winter, you've got the capillary action, so it's constantly moving up and down this toxicity in the soil, and it can be very toxic to plants. Now, there are plants that are maybe be a bit more, what's the word, a bit more tolerant of high copper in the ground. And I got a signal down here, and there is a plant growing right on top of it. Here, look, there is some clover, look. Now, if I look around, I can't see any other clover nearby. No, there's no clover plants nearby, or a little bit there. No, that didn't work. But there are plants that are more tolerant of high copper content of the soil. So maybe this clover here is more tolerant of copper. I'll have to look it up. Right, hopefully this is going to be copper. I have been told by Cliff that dock leaves, if a dock plant, you know, that stuff when you get stinging nettles, you've been bitten by, well not bitten, but stung by a stinging nettle, if you find a dock leaf growing over a signal, that can also indicate that it might be a plant that's tolerant of high copper content in the soil. And there we go. Look, there's the dark soil compared with the soil around it, look. And there is the item. Looks like a piece of cack. Yeah, it's some sort of a can that's been squashed. Can you see that? Yeah. And then you've got the dark soil around it, look. And there are plants that are more tolerant of this soil, because there's the soil nearby. Look how much lighter it is. So this soil is toxic to plants. So what you should do is just crumble it up and spread it so that it's not as concentrated next time you find an item in the soil. It'll be you know, the toxicity there will be diminished. Right, and that's what's doing it, methinks. So clover one and dock leaves could be another. Because then what you could do, if you knew where there was a location of a hoard but you weren't sure where exactly it was, what you could do is you could get the farmer to put plants in that would not tolerate high copper content. You know, depending on whether the hoard was made of copper, that would help. Don't think it does it for gold or silver, unfortunately. And you could get them to put some plants in, and then once the crop starts coming up, you could look at the crop for where it wasn't growing as well, and that would be the location of the hoard. So, you know, there's possibilities here that this could be useful. You know, I'm only just looking into it, and I don't think anyone else has ever gone down this road. But, you know, I'm a gardener, you see, so I know that the soil has different minerals and stuff in the ground, and I always wondered about that sort of black soil that you get around copper. So I looked into it, and it's highly toxic to most plants. So in the summertime you could literally see where the plants are not growing as well, and know that there's maybe a target underneath, like that clover plant, where it was probably more tolerant of the copper in the ground. Right, so this video is going to be epic.